my alarm.
Gee, Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Preaching freedom.
Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.
All right. What up, world? It is 8:30 on a Sunday. Do you know where your POGs are? Of course you do, man. We are right here. And today, 2 POGs have turned into 3 as we have brought in my man, Dr. Thaddeus Jones, my main man, my left hand, my brother from another mother. I have all the accolades. This is my guy. Our blood would not make us any closer. I'm glad to see you. He, for those of you guys who've been following us for a while, Dr. Thad has been deep in the comment section, man. Him and the chappie has had some great back and forth. So we decided to invite Dr. Thad on, man, and bring him in, man, for a nice conversation. But before we get into the nitty and gritty, first of all, Chappie, how are you, sir?
I am good. The Dodgers finally didn't blow a lead against the Astros.
Jeez, man, I don't want to hear it. My Braves are getting their butts kicked. We finally pulled off 2 against the Mets, man, but it ain't looking too good for the good guys this year. I'm getting nervous. Dad, what up, bro?
You should be.
Yeah, I definitely am, man. All right, 90 minutes. We got a lot to talk about. It's been one hell of a week. Let's say we jump
Hold on. I want to hear Thad. You need to do more of an intro to Thad. I want to hear the bio and the credentials and all that stuff.
Fair enough. Dr. Thaddeus Jones, welcome to the show, sir. Would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure, why not? I'm Dr. Thaddeus Jones. I am an entrepreneur, filmmaker, instructor, professor, father, husband. Doing this was probably the last 20 plus years. Took a long climb, dropped out of, I don't know how far in the details you want to go. I was a college dropout. Had a bunch of jobs, everything from a monkey farm to a painting custom motorcycles, and as an apprentice. And finally got my stuff together. Got back into school. You know, many prayers, just like you would pray when you had a hangover or you drank too much. You know, you hugging that porcelain throne and you're going, "Oh God, if you get me through this, I'll never touch another drop." And I made that prayer of, "God, if you get me back into school, I'll go as far as you want me to go." And I think I've tried to stay as true to that as I possibly could. Ended up, my mother always wanted a doctor in the family, and I told her it wasn't going to be me, and I'm a doctor. So, children, listen to your mothers.
What is your PhD in?
My PhD is in business, actually, with a focus on creative project management, which is a field my traditional project management tools, but utilized for creative projects. So what we do in the film world, I take those tools and convert them for use in independent creative projects.
Okay, the PhD, it reminds me of just a great joke. There's a guy who's on an airplane and he falls over choking, and somebody says, "There's a doctor here," and somebody steps in, "I'm a doctor," and she says, "He needs help. He's choking us." And he says, "Well, I'm a doctor of mathematics." And she says, "Well, can't you help?" And he says, "Well, I guess -1."
All right, fellas, listen. So we have had a very rambunctious week. We got a couple of things we're gonna talk about. Let's say we jump into it. You guys ready? Chappie, you gonna love this one. We are talking about the big blue wave. First out of the box, we are gonna run the video and then we're gonna come back for commentary. Let's see. Oh, can't do that. Oh, I don't ever want to act right when it's time. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get it.
Something just happened I've never heard of before. There was a Zoom call that had over 200,000 white women on it. we also saw the same kind of call with black women, right? Win with black women, Zoom for Harris. I'm telling you, if these moments get momentum and become a movement, this could be what this election is about. Did I get it right? And what was the vibe? And why this time? Why haven't we seen this before?
You did get the vibe right. It was incredible. First of all, Zoom has never had a meeting larger than 100,000 people. This happened completely organically. Shannon Watts, who's the founder of Moms Demand Action, tweeted in response to the Win with Black Women call that you mentioned that white women should do this. It's on us now.
All right. So you have in her first week in the honeymoon phase, I believe it started with the Black Women Win with Kamala. And then that led to 500,000 plus or minus in donations. Then after that, the black men were like, hold my beer. And basically the good brother, Roland Martin, decided to have a Alpha Phi fraternity meeting on Zoom where they raised $1 million. And we got a chance to sit in on their chapter meeting. And then on top of that, the white women was like, you know what? Here, hold my leggings or hold my, hold my Yeti cup.
Pumpkin latte.
And they broke Zoom, and then they raised an astonishing 8.5 million in one session. Holy smoke, man. That is, first of all, do you see that concerning?
No, not at all. I look at a few things there. First, the organic thing I automatically question. That many people, but okay, so be it. I mean, like realistically, but think about the people that are going to join that Zoom meeting. Okay, if you say we're going to have a political meeting for white women who are going to vote for Kamala Harris, you're going to have those kind of very active women who want to be engaged, who were already engaged, who are doing the things that you would expect for people who are highly engaged to vote for the Democrats. And I'm just saying the Democrats, that doesn't have to be GOP or just actively engaged. You can have the same thing with African American men, African American women, you have any group. You could have something where the Asians, hey, everybody who is Asian American that is going to vote for Kamala Harris, come on and have a Zoom call. We want to break the record now. And so the groups that are doing that, cool, more power to you. But when I see something that has 100,000 people that say, I don't know who I'm voting for, I'm really a true independent voter, I legitimately don't know if I'm voting for Harris or Trump. And then at the end of the call, they do a poll and it was like, okay, 75% of the people on the call said they were going to lean towards Harris, 25% towards Trump, something like that. That to me would be like, oh crap. That means independent voters, that's where they're going. Here's the other side of it. I'm also not worried about it because, and I really do think this, 2020, Harris ran in the presidential campaign and pulled 0%. In California, she ended up 4th in the primary and ended up dropping out. Tulsi Gabbard just absolutely ended her presidential run in a matter of about 90 seconds. So if you're Trump and you're going, okay, was it 4 seconds?
No, 4 minutes. I got the video.
4 minutes. Okay. But I think the part where she actually kind of initially, stuck the knife in, regardless, she did it in under 5 minutes. Okay.
Yep.
So if you're Trump, you're going, hey, what can I do to get Tulsi Gabbard on board? Hey, Tulsi, would you like to be, Pete Buttigieg is the transportation secretary. How does that sound a gig for you? I'd like you to join me on stage. I'd like you to come in and do the deal that has been going on for, 150 years in this country where those types of things happen. And I think that's something that with Harris coming in, the money, it's kind of like the money that they said she got $180 million in 3 days, which is a new record and all that. Well, yeah, because everybody else that had been donating, all the super Hollywood, the big money donors, they'd all cut off any funds for 2-3 weeks after the Biden debate. So I think it's good. This is it. You could call it a blue wave. I think what you put on there, calling it a blue wave, was pretty accurate. But I think the wave is going to hit. It's going to crash. It's going to go back out, and then we're going to really see how she can perform as a candidate, how she can perform on the debate stage, how her message is received. One thing that she's going to have to do is something that President Biden didn't have to do in 2020, which, in my opinion, led him to the presidency. She's actually going to have to get out and actually speak and be in front of crowds and in front of people. And right now, it made news earlier this year. Earlier this week, she had 3,000 people in Wisconsin, and it was a high school gymnasium or something. And at the same time, like that day, Trump had 30,000 people at a rally. So the rally size, I don't know if that matters, because we remember Romney in 2012 was pulling huge rallies. Right. I'm not worried about it right now. I think it's the energy. It's the new toy, the shiny new toy after the old decrepit toy finally decided to roll back into the toy chest. So right now, no, we'll wait and see.
I can see that. Thad, you got any thoughts on that?
I think part of that is definitely correct. I think anything that is new and new energy, but I also believe that we are not in 2020. We are in 2024, and people are I don't know if I can curse or not, but dog tired.
Yeah.
Dog ass tired of the same thing. And I think that right now, this feels different. As far as, and so what you are seeing are people that, yes, are already active, yes, are probably the forerunners of getting politically active, right? But what I think you're also seeing are people that can carry a message and go and bring those independents to the table. And so if you are running this campaign, I think that that's where you start. You start with the people that are the messengers. You send them out. You know, obviously we're adding money to the war chest right now, but the biggest thing is we're getting names and roll call of people that we are going to send out to gather the vote for us. And I think that, you know, even after we see the new shiny toyness of this campaign wear off, we are going to see a hardworking campaign machine put to use. And at least, you know, that's what I'm reading.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. So hold on. I'm gonna play this video and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about it, because I think it kind of brings that point in a little bit.
Where Vice President Kamala Harris received a big boost with an endorsement from the former president and first lady. And on the Republican side, as CBS's Robert Costa reports, Vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance is standing by comments he made about, quote, childless cat ladies.
You're both together. Vice President Kamala Harris's historic week culminated with a strong personal endorsement from Barack and Michelle Obama.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
With Democrats uniting behind her, Harris is now turning to picking a running mate, with some of the more than a dozen contenders getting informal tryouts on the stump, including Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro.
The vice president now has a deeply personal decision to make.
Oh, is that Josh Shapiro?
Yes.
Because she went through it.
I couldn't have picked him out of a lineup.
You wouldn't. All right. So we'll go back to that in a little bit with the whole JD Vance thing here later in the show. But I wanted to play that because that part is significant, right? And I'll tell you why. So the president, the former president, Barack Obama, and his wife has made it an SOP not to nominate it or not to put their endorsement behind anyone before the convention, right? So when Hillary ran, she asked Barack to come out and stump for her. Barack said, "Hey, I can't. Once after the convention, I'll be more than happy to hit the streets." Fine. Same thing with Biden, who was his VP. He said, "Look, man, I love you, but I can't stump for you until you become the actual nominee." This is different, right? So Vice President Harris, as we know, is not the official nominee. Air quotes, right? Because it's anybody else. Yeah, anybody else at DOA, you know, if we're being honest. But it's very telling to see President Obama and Michelle come out and voice their opinion. That all right, so I'm gonna try to walk the middle line, right? I'm gonna try to walk the middle line because you know I'm a fan of Obama, and if we can get to it, we'll talk about it. But Obama's my guy, right? And he made a living on walking the middle road, right? He would remind people constantly, I am not the president of Black people. I am the president of all Americans. And for him to come out and endorse Kamala seems a little bit like, yo, that's my homegirl. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my homegirl. I'm reminded of the Key and Peele speech where, you know, Obama was doing the handshakes or whatever. And like he got to Kamala, was like, come on.
Bring it in.
Yeah. So a little bit of home cooking, man, without her being the official nominee. And I get it. You know, I get it. I just don't like the way it's being done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not mad at it. I just don't like the way it's being done because it puts a stink on a situation that don't need to be stunk up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I don't. What stink?
So it's that loopholism, right? And I'll give you. It's the same concept from when senators don't like a bill or whatever, so they'll filibuster it, right? Like, hey man, we get it, you don't like the bill or whatever, but you're gonna use this loophole and you're gonna stand on the Senate floor and ramble for 60 hours just to stall it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not illegal, but it is bending and riding the curve so hard to where it's like, man.
What you're speaking specifically to is that she does not have the official
right.
nominee.
She's not the nominee. So for a former president to come out to say, you know what I'm saying? For a former president basically to come out and say, hey man, I don't care if anybody else put their name in the hat. This is my girl.
Well, I think they have all but locked up, right? It's all but official except for the convention.
Right.
And I get how that could feel maybe a little disingenuous coming out early, right? It's like getting a sneak peek at something that's supposed to be, you know, still undetermined. But ultimately, you've got an endorsement from a sitting president that says, I'm pulling my hat out of the ring and we're throwing it here.
I got to
We've locked up all the delegates. We got enough to make sure we got enough to get there and be the official nominee. So yeah, I agree that it is not, it's far from official, but it will be.
I know Lance want to get in, but let me I'm gonna fire you up real quick. Hear me out. Trump and Biden, the Democrat Party knew all along Biden was a weakling, right? And they tried to shield him as best they can. Once that debate debacle happened, they knew they were going to pull the plug. But they prolonged it. One, to try to drain Trump's resources because he was already pouring in millions fast. And two, they didn't want to release the Harris thing until the very last minute to capitalize on the winner and not to expose her. That's what I think the plan was to switch Biden out the whole time.
And it very well may have been. And if we're talking about politics, when are people not playing dirty? They are always leveraging and hedging. We're talking about two wings on the same bird. So I'm independent. I vote my issues, but I can see how this is a knockout punch being played. Okay, we want you to dig this hole so deep. Keep digging, right? And bury yourself up to your shoulders, and then at the last minute, here's your true opponent. It's like the old boxing thing. It's like, oh yeah, the guy you were supposed to box, he fell and broke his leg. But we want the fight to continue on. Yeah, here's Clubber Lang. Clubber Lang, everybody.
Yeah.
And Clubber.
What do you think, Lance? Like it's not illegal. It gives a funky taste. It has a bad aftertaste.
It ain't a
right?
funky taste to me, man. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all of it. So what's funky to me is the issues, right? And I don't care how we get to where we need to be, as long as we get there. So if it's a little funky, so be it. The other side been playing that way against the middle and against the other. They've been playing this way all along. It's just more of, you know what? Kudos to the Democrats for finally growing some cojones.
I'm surprised. I gotta admit, I didn't think they could anything off like that.
If it was a plan to put a plan together that, goddamn,
I didn't think they would do that, but it's definitely skeezerish. What you got, Lance?
I don't think this was the plan at all. I think the plan was for Biden to come out, and they were going to back Biden, and then they were going to back Kamala, and then at some point after Biden won, which they fully anticipated winning, speaking of dirty tricks, by any means necessary, ballot harvesting, whatever they could do, and then at some point go, okay, when Biden has run his course, we'll hand it off to Kamala, and then she'll pick it up and keep going from there. The idea of Biden, of President Obama endorsing Harris early it doesn't bother me at all. Didn't think twice about it. It's like, who else is he? He's not going to endorse Trump. And as soon as Harris, I think it's a way bigger question as far as what smells bad is, how did she get the nominee? Like if you're look, I tweeted out when I'm agreeing with Black Lives Matter organization, then hell is close to freezing over, because Black Lives Matter organization, which if you know me, I do not have any love or respect for. I appreciate the movement, but not the organization. And they come out and say, this is undemocratic. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris. Not one single vote was given for Kamala Harris, and she's now running for the president. How is that democratic? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly how. If I was a Democrat, I'd be kind of pissed off if I was at that. But I don't think this was a plan. I think that and saying, well, we were going to hold on as long as we could and until Trump. I don't think it was even, hey, Joe, hold on and then we'll drain Trump. I think it was as soon as that debate happened and they turned on him, Joe Biden is an angry old man who's like, F you guys, I'm not going anywhere. I can do this. Jill tells me I can do this. And my boy, Hunter, who's the smartest man I know, tells me I can do this. And my son, Bo, who's been dead since Iraq, since he died in Afghanistan and Iraq of a gunshot wound to the head and the knee and when he was beaten to death on the streets of Pittsburgh, he told me, and where are we talking about? I'm running for president and I'm Joe Biden. I don't think there was anything behind this outside of Joe Biden and his very close inner circle trying to hold on to power until the money spigot was turned off.
Yeah.
Once the money spigot turned off for about 10 days, then they all went, oh, well, crap. If we are losing the big donors, and even it's not even a threat of, hey, we're going to donate to Trump, because that was never the threat was just, we're not going to give you any more money.
Right.
And they went, well, crap. Okay, we need to search deep in I need to deepen my soul and hand it off to a new generation. Kamala Harris is not a new generation. She's 59 years old. She's not even the millennial, or she's not Gen X, is she? I don't think she even qualifies as Gen X. I'm an old Gen Xer.
I think she's right on the edge of Gen X or no, she's early Gen X.
I think Gen X starts in like 1970, 1969, 1970, which is about 55 years old. So technically, regardless,
Yep.
I don't think the Obama endorsement moves the needle one iota. I don't think that what is happening now with the polling matters at all. I think that we are, and the switch and bait as far as, hey, you're going to fight this person and this person, that might be true, except Kamala Harris isn't Clubber Lang. Kamala Harris is, I can't even think of a bad enough amateur fighter that they put in front and going, punch. We're
going to see if we debate. All right, so we got to move.
Oh, we lost KJ. Isn't that funny? He just goes to change one thing and he drops right off, like he's just gonna leave us.
I know, right?
Just leave us on our own. Oh, now you come back. Now I see how it is.
I know, right? It's insane.
Every week, KJ. Every week you pull this magic trick.
You know, when we're not talking about these things, I just want to, I took my hat off, but I just want you to know when we're not talking about these things, it doesn't happen. So anyway, our favorite anti-hero, Tulsi Gabbard, made a triumphant return as a Fox News analyst this week, and she had some things to say.
How much do you think her contract was?
I would like to say it's out of the goodness of her heart that she wanted to chime in. So we're gonna play that right now, and then we'll hopefully, if we get some time, we'll go back and play her epic beatdown of Kamala Harris in the debate, which was a masterclass. But that's neither here nor there. Let's see if I can still pull it up, because every time I get kicked out, it deletes all my videos. All right, here we go. Let's see what we got.
Now, when you think about all the foreign policy crises that are brewing around the world, China's new alliance with Russia, Iran, close to having a nuclear weapon, well, be comforted to know that Kamala could go from being one heartbeat away from the presidency to being our commander-in-chief. And her knowledge of Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union, well, after all, it's unparalleled.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
Oh, my God. I forgot about that one. Joining me now, Tulsi Gabbard, former U.S. Congresswoman, Fox News contributor. Now, Tulsi, I'm thinking tonight, you're Vladimir Putin, okay? You're over there and you got all your stuff going on. Were you watching this spectacle play out in the representative democracy of the United States of America with Biden's people, just caught flat-footed on Sunday, and now that woman's on deck? What are you thinking? I'm more interested, Laura, in what the American people are thinking. I've been seeing headline after headline saying, well, what is Kamala Harris's foreign policy going to be? And then we're reminded by these examples of how inexperienced and lacking of knowledge and strength that she is. So to answer that question, what kind of commander-in-chief will she be? What kind of foreign policy will she have? We simply need to look at the facts of what we've seen under the Biden-Harris administration. They are not running our foreign policy. Our foreign policy decisions are being made by unelected people in the military-industrial complex who are profiting from us being in a constant state of war, and the national security state that has more power to undermine our freedoms and liberties when we are in a state of war. Kamala Harris does not have the strength to stand up to the military-industrial complex, the national security state. So she's going to continue being a figurehead just like Joe Biden has been. And this is, Laura, this is where the clear choice is in this election. Donald Trump is strong. As commander-in-chief, he will take charge. He will stand up to the military-industrial complex and national security state. He will prevent us from getting into unnecessary wars and make decisions that actually serve the best interests of the American people and our own security. Well, we keep hearing about how great Kamala is, how historic.
Okay, so I am a fan of Tulsi. I think she'd be a fantastic asset to either side. but I also recognize the gamemanship that she's playing toward the end of that, right? We as educated men, we can sit here and honestly say, even though foreign policy is not Kamala Harris's strong point, it certainly is not a strong point of Donald Trump either, right? So either candidate would be leaning heavy on their advisors from a foreign policy perspective, right? And Kamala has some geography issues that she's got to work through. But I would be, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that our former president, the head of the red ticket, has also gotten lost on the map a time or 3 or 4. You know what I'm saying? So you can kind of see the gamesmanship as a paid analyst and how it's a little bit slighted. But I think the first part of what she said is absolutely true. And God dang, man, I swear, I miss her in the political spectrum. I miss old school Margaret Tulsi.
I've got a question for both of you. KJ, you go first, and then Pat. So what you just said was, and what the video was indicating was that, by the way, is it Kamala or Kamala? Because I've heard it both ways. I want to be respectful and say it the right way. So I'll say Vice President Harris for now. Okay.
I've always heard it as Kamala.
Right.
Kamala. Okay.
I don't think she makes a big deal out of it, as big a deal as other people make it, right?
Okay. I try to be respectful, right?
Yeah.
So Vice President Harris, and I'm about to just totally slam her at the same time. So they just said, oh, well, we know Vice President Harris's strong suit, or you said, KJ, Vice President Harris's strong suit is not foreign policy.
Yes.
So my question would be, what is her strong suit?
So I'm glad you asked that question. I see her policies, and she hasn't come out, and I'm sure as we get to know her better, she'll better define her policies. But for me, she will be a champion she'll be an advocate for justice reform. I think that's a political spectrum she can stay in. I think she needs to stay out of. I think
really.
Yeah. Yep.
Based on her history,
right? Yeah, and I will tell you, she did her job as a prosecutor, right? She prosecuted unjust marijuana laws, and it happened. And then when you look at the numbers, if you go back and look at the numbers, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but those thousands of black men that she locked up, the actual number of people who actually went to jail were 46. 46. She was a prosecutor 8 years, and only 46 men went to jail as a
for marijuana.
For marijuana. Okay. Now you say, okay, well, she was locking black people up, disproportionately. And I'll say, well,
I don't know if I'm not making that argument at all. I just know as a DA.
So what I'm saying is, welcome to America, because prosecutors all over the country have been locking black men up disproportionately for decades. So we can't sit back and throw this on Kamala Harris all of a sudden and say, well, she locks black men up. No shit, she's a prosecutor. All prosecutors. If you look in your municipality or in your city or your district, I will guarantee you 10 dimes to a wooden nickel that your prosecutor has either similar or higher incarceration rates. Do you know why? Because they have villainized black men to the point to where their constituents wanted those black men locked up. So now you can't come back as a citizen. You can't come back and say, well, I don't like her because she locked black men up. But you voted. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying as a constituent, you can't come back and say, well, I don't like her because she locked black men up, when the sole reason she kept getting reelected was because her incarceration rates were high. Right now, in terms of case dismissal, it was circumstantial evidence and this, that, and the other. That's not necessarily a DA issue. That's more of a systemic issue, right? But only 46, if we get down to the brass tacks, only 46 of those guys actually serve jail time. So for me, that's not
okay. But still, the question becomes, what is her strength? Because she was in the Senate. I don't recall any bills pushing for criminal reform. And Trump And for the record on that, I think Trump can beat her on the record for criminal reform, just as a thought. But go ahead.
I got you. So here we go. So you remember that HBCU funding bill that Trump signed, and we said Trump did more for Black people than Obama did. Do you know? Do you know the senator that pushed that through? I'll let you take a guess. It was a senator out of California.
Well, I'm guessing it was Harris at the time then.
Yes, sir. So when we say, well, what has she done? Well, we dig into the weeds, we look at her record. Kamala Harris has been very forward. She pushed unsuccessfully, might I add, 3 times to pass the Voting Rights Act that got kicked back. So we've seen her put in the work. It was unsuccessful, because of Congress being Congress, but Kamala's been putting in work, man. And I say this not even as a fan of Kamala, but just as a trying to stay in the middle gray line guy. She's putting in the work. So I would imagine her doing that same thing. Now, where she's failed at has been obviously the border policy, because Biden was like, hey, I'm going to hand that to Kamala. And that was an absolute, or Vice President Harris. And that was an abject failure, right? So I think she's going to get hit hard on that. I think she's going to get hard on the economy. And I think foreign policy is another weakness that she's going to get hard at. But that's where the VP pick comes in. Thad, what you got? You want to chime in on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that you hit some nails dead on the head. I also think that she is going to mobilize the women's reproductive rights. That is going to be huge. And I would say she's probably also gonna win big with climate when we talk about environmental rights. And so those 2 things I think that are gonna be big, and where her record will definitely help. And to your point, I think these are all the reasons why you choose the vice president that you choose to run with, right? You want someone strong where you're weak. So, and mind you, weakness is God forbid we have someone that is as perfect and is so strong on everything else. You have folks that would not admit to having a weakness. And I think that that in and of itself, that hubris is weakness and easily exploited. And so we've already come through a great deal of that. I think we need someone who can put country first, and put us all first. And that means admitting where you're weak. That means finding someone who's strong. That means going to the mat. So I think as a prosecutor, former prosecutor, as a person that is that has had to deal with certain things, and mind you, we people call Kamala Harris a vice president, Kamala Harris, the black choice or whatnot. She is not necessarily that. She's not ADOS.
To be fair, the black coalition did not push Kamala Harris to the front of the ticket. This was strictly a blue party thing. This was the Liberal Party telling people what's good for them once again. This was not a Black America uniting, coming together saying, this is our guy. We want her, or else there'll be consequences.
The problem is the average person doesn't know who they are. That's why Trump was able to mobilize so many people,
right?
Because he was able to just tell you, you want me, I'm going to do this. We didn't get half of what you promised, but it's okay, because I'm going to do it again. And again, when we are dealing with folks on a larger scale that just want to be told what to do to stay safe, you're going to have that.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, man. I think she's in a good spot to where her record is minuscule enough to where she can paint herself to be whatever she wants, right? There's nothing like she doesn't have enough of a history to where you can go back and pinpoint and say, okay, well, she's extremely, left on this, or she's extremely, moderate on this. She's been just close enough to the middle of the road to where you can't really pinpoint it down. So I think as voters get to know her a little bit better and she starts to define her policy a little bit better, people will be able to make a more informed decision on it, right? And I think you're right. I think abortion is going to be huge. You can already see President Biden's already talking about reforming the Supreme Court. I think that's dead on arrival as it is. But I can see President Harris kind of taking up that mantle and doing that as well. I remember she was really big into, like, when the pandemic, she was really big into upgrading the health system, like telehealth and maternal health and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's some things where she can sink her teeth into. She has a footing, right? But I think her greatest asset is going to be the ability to kind of shape it how she wants to. What you got, Chappie? You were researching for a minute. What you got?
Well, no, I was trying to find the Kamala Harris HBCU, and the only thing I could find was Senators Doug Jones from Alabama and Kamala Harris recently announced a historic Black college university will receive a 14% increase in funding in the Senate's omnibus spending bill signed by Trump. So I was trying to find the author, and the author was actually in the House. Yeah, Representative Adams.
Yeah,
but
she's one of the sponsors. She's one of the sponsors on the bill from the Senate. Yeah.
No, and that's fine. But first of all, you don't get to define yourself. Never have been able to in presidential campaign. You are always defined by the opposing party. That goes back as far as so she can say this is what I believe it, but you're gonna have. I think her problem with her light record it comes in two parts. One is that because she doesn't have a real hefty history in the Senate and as VP, then you look at what she has done, and you're seeing it now. You're seeing the black holing of her record, because she was labeled as the most liberal, most left liberal senator by the congressional rating, and that's going down.
Did Bernie Sanders die?
No, she was rated #1. Like, it's funny because it was Nora. What's her last name? Used to anchor Nora for ABC, or one of the big ones, Nora, whatever her name is.
Mm-hmm.
And she's interviewing Kamala Harris. This was probably right before the 2020 election, and she's talking to her about her record and liberal, and she goes, "Oh, well, that's what the Republicans are they're gonna label me as this far left person." And Deborah Norville, she says, "Well, actually the nonpartisan, rating organization, whatever, actually labels you as the most liberal senator from the end by your," and she kind of goes, "Oh shit, what did I just do? Oh crap." You're seeing the memory holing of her being the border czar. Oh no, she was never labeled the border czar. And you literally see people who are posting, here's the headline from the New York Times saying she was the border czar, and here's your article from yesterday saying, oh, she was never the border czar. And you see it in the WAPO, you see it in the New York Times, and it's just to me, it's one of those things. If however much you hate the mainstream media, you do not hate them enough.
Well, there's going to be some showmanship, right? It's their job to make it. It's their job to make you forget it, right? But it's your job.
It's not the media. Is it the media's job to make you forget? No, that's where I say
the media. So here's the thing with the media. The media,
the campaign saying it fine.
Yeah, the media is going to put out whatever their employees tell them to put out, right? We've established long ago that there is no more unfair, unbiased media. Every media platform has an agenda. Every single one. So whatever the corporate sponsors are telling them to put out, then that's the messaging they're going to go with. So that part doesn't surprise me. It's the political parties, like it's the political parties. Some people will sit back and say, oh, well, Donald Trump did this, Donald Trump do that, right? So the Republican Party, it's their job to tell you that their candidate is moderate. It's their job to tell you that their candidate is a president for all people, right? Same thing on the Democrats. So I appreciate the gamemanship. I see it. I actually enjoy it a little bit. And it's going to be interesting, man. So speaking of that, going into the debates, right? So President Harris has been putting the full court press on about debating Trump or whatever. And the Trump party played it smart. They said, hey, listen, you're not the official nominee. We don't have to do shit. You know, excuse my language. When you become the official nominee, then we can talk about debating. But until you become a candidate, I'm not going to be bothered with you, right? So what do you guys think about that? Like, granted that she's going to be the nominee, right? And let's say that they go ahead with the September 10th debate as scheduled. What are you most looking forward to?
That I think you're up. I talked for a little too long there.
What am I looking forward to? Honestly, I think that just to address the elephant in the room, right? We don't have to do shit. It's chess, right? We're playing chess.
Yep.
And I think when you are Donald Trump, you feel like you can make the rules as you go along, right? You can rewrite the game of chess as you're playing it. Which he has done to some degree of success for most people.
To be fair, he let the Democrats play in that debate. That was the Democrat that Biden debacle. That was a Democratic plan, and it backfired spectacularly.
But then he went and stuck his foot in his mouth and said, "I will debate her anytime, anywhere."
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, what they're really going to do? They're really going to do it now. We don't have to, right? She's not even really the candidate, right? So we don't have to do anything. I think it's more of that, you know, I don't have to be accountable to anything. And a part of that is like, for me, I just want to know that people keep their word. I'm a man of my word. I have to be. And if I say publicly, KJ, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, I expect KJ to hold me accountable to it. What I don't expect is KJ to let me slide when I say, well, you know, it's a loophole here, you know. And really, I really don't have to do it. I said I was gonna do it, but I don't really have to do it. Like, to me, that's the integrity factor, right? And when I think about who I want to represent me and my interests, I want to know that what you say is what you're truly going to do, and not walk it back when it doesn't suit your interests. Do I think they need time to prepare? Absolutely. When you have been running in one direction and you've got those, Sleepy Joe's going to be asleep at the podium, this is a layup. Man, it's like, you know, to use I guess an old analogy for those sports folks, because I am not a sports person, right? But when you are up against the, 100th ranked team, you don't practice as hard,
right?
Oh, it's a layup game, right? Oh, listen, we're gonna take the week off. We're gonna take the boys down when we're supposed to be at practice. We're gonna have pizza. We're gonna hang out with the honeys. We're gonna chill out and do X, Y, and Z, right? And then they've been practicing. The 100 team, they ain't got nothing to lose. They got everything to gain by just showing up. And I think that, part of that is, as a person who is running for office, representing the people, we expect you to show up day in, day out, and do what you said you were going to do. So when they do have this debate, I think there needs to be what they're counting on is the ability to really get their intelligence up on who this person is, right? Who they're up against. And so I fully expect that we're going to see some I don't want to say dirty pool. We're going to see this thing devolve very quickly.
Oh yeah.
And try to make it into the kind of game that he wants to play. I think that the opposite side is going to try and hold that game to, playing the strictly for the issues.
Yeah.
And they're going to steer it towards the issues that they know he has backtracked on. They're going to stick the things that I said I was going to do this, but I didn't do this. And they're going to try to hold that as the yardstick to keep the measurement on. I think where the vice president has a ace up her sleeve is that she doesn't have a ton of things that they can really pull from. So, what we teach is all the time, you make your weaknesses your strengths.
Yep.
And so I think that those are going to be the things that actually help her to get her point across, to kind of hopefully corner. But honestly, like I said, these are two wings on the same bird. I just want somebody that's going to be accountable and really do what they say they were going to do. And as far as the system goes, the system as a whole needs reforming.
Yep. So hold on, Lance. I know you look like you want to jump in, but I'm gonna play this video first, and then we're gonna jump in. I want, because I think it's gonna lead into what you're gonna talk about. Let's see how close to right I
You're gonna jump off. You're gonna drop. No, you're there.
I hope not.
Who in the last few years have left their old party and are now voting for Trump. Latina Brown and Madeline Brame. Madeline, good to see you. We'll start with you. She's been vice president for almost 4 years. Yeah. Obama was president for 8 years as a black man. So is playing the race card here really a smart strategy?
Thank you so much, Laura, for having me once again on your show. It is absolutely the most silliest thing that they could possibly do, because most African Americans know that the illegals' benefit card is worth more than our worthless black card. So why would we care about who Kamala Harris is, about her race or her gender? We care about the policies that she has pushed with Joe Biden for the past 3.5 years. We are struggling. We can't even make ends meet. You talked about retirement earlier. I have to work till I'm 70 years old in order to get my full retirement. So, no, Black America is not supporting Kamala Harris, all right? Color has nothing to do with the failed policies that she has championed and stood on for 3.5 years.
Now, people have called Kamala the DEI candidate, but Democrats, they don't like that.
Whenever you hear DEI, I want you to think about the N-word. I want you to think about racial slurs. That's what they actually mean.
Latina. When you hear DEI, think of the N-word? That's where they are. That's it.
Well, Laura, thank you for having me on. I just want to say this. The Democrats are full of crap. And I think that they know that the American people can see through the crap that they're pushing and circulating out there to the Black community. If anything, the Democrats, they're the ones who are sowing division in the community, in this country.
Pause.
It's not about uniting.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
First, that was enough.
Wait. Does that tell me that is not diamond and silk? Wait. Tell me that's not diamond and silk all over again, right? And this is what pisses me off. This is what pisses me off about news outlets, right? They do the same crap when it comes to reporting the news, right? They go and they find the lowest common dadgum denominator, all the intelligent conservatives that you could pull from, that could articulate their point with some sense, and they find these two yahoos to come on here and I just disagree with what they're saying, and it bothers me that this is so. When we talk about playing dirty pool and stuff, you know, people will show you what they think about you if you pay attention, right? And Fox News has a propensity to do stuff like this every election cycle, and it's not doing them any favors.
Sir,
with independence.
They had this woman at the at the Republican convention speaking. Okay, I watched that and immediately turned.
Oh, one of those two was an actual speaker?
Yes. The first one that spoke, she was actually at the Republican convention. This is why it's hard to oh my God.
Okay. So first, Diamond and Silk, literally who I thought of. I couldn't remember their name. I knew it was something in Silk, but literally who I thought of. Okay, I do want to say something to Thad though. Now, first, I lifelong conservative. I left the GOP in 2016 when Trump became the nominee. And I will say this, I voted for Trump in 2020. I'm going to vote for Trump in 2024. And on the list of where integrity is for Donald Trump's traits that I can rely on, probably can't get any lower because he has no integrity. So be it. He's an asshole. I've said many times, but you know what? He's an asshole with policies I agree with more than the other side. So I get it, but integrity, couldn't care less. Dude cheated on he cheated on every wife. It doesn't even like, I don't get the evangelicals who are all in on Trump. It's like, dude, like really? Trump? Like you want to hold him up and say he's going to have good policies. We like him because he kills the media. We like him because he's going to be a tough guy to Russia and all that. Fine. Okay, cool. But holding him up that he somehow is a good, that's what they said during the convention. He is a good father, grandfather, and husband.
Yeah.
I'll buy 2 of those 3 because he sure as shit is not a good husband. And I apologize to the swearing because my daughter watched this. She said earlier today, Dad, you swear too much during that. So, okay, sorry. Debates. I want to touch on the debates though. I don't mind Trump backing up and saying, well, hold on, anywhere, anytime, any place, because, you know, you do have the handlers and they come back and go, no, hey, whoa, let's take advantage of this then. And I think I think it would absolutely be smart for Trump because we saw him go into CNN, and while, yes, you know, Biden blew up on his own landmine, I think that was not the intent. The intent was to send him to CNN, put him in enemy territory. And actually, I think no matter how poorly Biden did in that debate, I think we underestimate how well Trump did. And then after the assassination attempt, I think he's done even better. And I wish the subdued, introspective Trump was more permanent than it has been, because I think he was that for about 2 weeks. And then somebody decided, hey, let's start writing his speeches, and that's where he needs to go, which I think is silly. But he should go on somewhere, and he should make sure that the moderators can only ask the questions and cannot do any instant fact checks. So he'll want to be able to say whatever he wants to say about Kamala Harris and about Biden and about their record without being fact checked. And honestly, I'm not sure Harris wants to be fact checked either. But I will say this about the policies. This is how I look at it for policies, and whether she's Diamond or Diamond and what was the other one?
Diamond and Silk was the original ones from 2016.
Whichever she is, she did hit two of my 3 that I think Trump does. And what you said about not having, I had to look it up, and I thought, Thomas Sowell, how old is Thomas Sowell? He is 94 years old.
Yeah.
I will still rather listen to Thomas Sowell take his time to get his thought out than just about anybody else on the planet. So maybe, unless he's really just incapacitated, I'd love to have him be that person on Fox News. I don't care how old he is, because there's plenty. It's not about age. It's about your mental acuity. And if he's able, that's who I'd like to hear. But I look at this, the issues. I look at this 3-1. Trump can hammer Harris on the border, on guns, and on inflation. Even though she's not the president, those three. And Harris has, for her, one big issue is going to be, they call it reproductive rights, women's rights, and I call it I call it abortion. But to me, those are kind of, and that's how much of it, when you're an independent, because again, we go back to the Romney 47%. There is no way either of these candidates poll less than 47%. If Joe Biden had stayed in this race, he still would have polled 47%. Okay. So with that, of those independent voters, what are they looking at? Are they really concerned? Is guns their top issue? No, probably not. Is the border? Well, maybe for a lot of people that's pretty big one, and I agree. I think that's a pretty big one. And is it abortion? Is it reproductive rights? Yeah, for a lot of people that's a pretty big one. But I'd argue that probably more than half, the majority, are looking at inflation. And as long as Trump hits that, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And just Reagan's him over and over. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? I think Trump still wins. I think that, and we've got a long way to go. Look, there's a sprint. It's 100 days or so. But if Trump doesn't, as long as Trump doesn't call her the N-word, and no, I mean, I'm dead serious when I say that. Like he could allude to it. He will dog whistle to people and all that stuff. But as long as he's not blatant about it, you will have enough people go, yeah, we're worried about the economy. Like realistically.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I think the biggest, I've always said that the biggest threat to a Trump presidency is unscripted Trump, right? Like I said, when you watch Trump, he's masterful. Like for the first 20-25 minutes of any rally, any speech, when he is on point and on his talking points, Trump is masterful. He is hitting all the moderate points. He's saying everything that perks an independent's ear. But where you run into problem is Trump will get flustered or he'll start feeling himself and then he'll go off script. And when he goes off script, that's when the sound bites come out. That's when the Democrats are sitting back licking their chops like, oh yeah, this is where we need them. And then I found JD Vance starting to pick up. And that's why I didn't think that was a good pick for him, because instead of having somebody who's temperamental, I think Nikki Haley would have been a phenomenal pick for VP. You know, and I get it, hindsight is 2020, but Nikki Haley on a Trump ticket would have been that moderate voice of reason to say, hey, you know, yeah, the president's a little wild, but let's pull it back, right? Where you got JD Vance is kind of like, yeah, more, and that's gonna get more soundbite. That's gonna get people more in trouble, right? It says you don't want to. It's bulletin board material, right? Like when you're getting ready to face your rivals, right? The big game. You got the big game coming up. You're getting ready to face your rivals. You don't want to be that guy in the newspaper that's going to give the rival team bulletin board material to run with, right? We saw that with Hillary Clinton and the bag of deplorables in 2016. We saw that with what's the girl, Palin, in 2008 about seeing Russia from a house. You don't want to be that guy that calls you to campaign, right?
You know, that wasn't actually her. That was Tina Fey on Saturday Night Live.
Tina Fey, but what I'm saying is it stuck to her. So you don't want to be that guy to get like, you know what I'm saying? The same thing, the same way JD Vance and the cat lady thing, right? It's going to stick to him. Completely out of pocket. I mean, completely out of context in what he was talking about. But because the messaging because the messaging took a life of its own, it's going to stick to him regardless. No matter what he says, it's going to stick to him.
Let me ask you a question about that. Whatever he said about cat ladies, and you see the same thing right now going this weekend about Trump saying, evangelicals, you only need to vote this for, and you won't have to vote again, right? And now, to me, Trump was saying, like, look, this is the last time you'll need to vote for me because I won't be here. I don't think he was very articulate. But the cat lady one, you don't have to vote for me. I think that this goes back to, Thad, you want to talk about integrity, journalistic integrity, because there is none. When you had Romney, you remember Romney, what was his big thing that everybody got, that left got him for? Binders full of women. What was the context, though? He said, look, I asked for qualified people for this position. And they came to me and they said, here's just this list of men. I was like, no, I want women. I want to have a full, and then they brought me these binder full of women, and I looked through everybody and found the best picks. And they went in and they said, binders full of women. Oh, Romney. Oh, so I don't know. I almost look at, and this has been true for a long time, but especially since probably the worst was the 1960 Kennedy and Nixon election, was how in the bag the media was.
It depends on how far back you want to go, because the Andrew Jackson election was that one. Was
yeah,
pretty, yeah.
I'm trying to say a little more modern history, because if you start going, Andrew Jackson, people are going, was he who's Andrew Jackson again? What's a stone wall? What does that mean? So, but like realistically, in the modern election cycle, I think it's pretty clear that the media and journalism, really just killed Nixon in a way that was brutally unfair in 1960. But when you're looking at modern today, and this is why, again, with the media and all that, I have never said the 2020 election was stolen. I've said it was manipulated, and I think the GOP is stupid, and Trump is stupid to continue down this idea that the 2020 election was stolen. Guys, it doesn't, like, you want to go in and say, oh, there's these conspiracies of these, the jump in Minnesota or wherever it was, and ballots under the table, blah, blah, blah. All you need to do is look and say the media shut down the Hunter Biden laptop story. You had these people come out and say that was Russian intelligence. You had the search engines manipulate the results. You had that today. I did that today myself. You go in and you put in assassination attempt on, and you don't see Trump anywhere on that list. You put a T, it goes to Truman. You put a TRU, it stays with Truman. TRUM, it goes to Truman. You put a P on there and you finally get to assassination attempt on Trump. Tell me Google hasn't manipulated that autofill and the algorithm. Truman, so if you're... Say again?
I said Truman was a damn good president, though.
Was there an assassination attempt on Truman?
I don't think it
was. I don't remember one, but there could have been. So, but that goes to show you how the algorithm can be manipulated, and how the big tech and the media itself is in the bag for not Trump. Okay, I'm going to say it like that. They just, Orange Man, bad. So I think that it would be this is why what Thad was saying. If these are the candidates we're going to have, and we both look, I don't think any of us are happy with whether it was Trump and Biden, Trump and Harris, whoever. I think when we start talking about the best and brightest, nobody is making that argument right now for any of the potential candidates right now, right?
Yep.
But this is where I think when we start talking about the system, how about we start with, if this is where we're going to be, let's make those incremental changes, like actually have a debate that matters. Make it an actual we don't do debates. We do these you have 90 seconds to respond. You have 30 seconds to respond. How about we actually have them discuss what the policies are, what they would do, what they would push policy-wise, how they would change things. And instead you get these questions, like on the last debate when it said, and I'm trying to remember if they asked Trump or Biden the question, but they said, how will the federal government affect the price of daycare for the average American? Really? Is the federal government responsible for the price of babysitting now? Like, I wish that had been the answer. Like, the federal government shouldn't control that. That shouldn't have anything to do with the federal government. That has nothing to do. The federal government, there's nothing constitutional about that. If somebody wants to write a law or a constitution, fine, and then we'll see if it's constitutional. But that's just you know what, Jake? That's a silly question.
So I got a couple things I want to say. So there's that, just to pick up off of what you just said, though, that is a symptom of a larger problem. The larger problems are we are willing to trade our morals for economic prosperity, period.
Sure.
In this country, people are willing to trade their morals for economic prosperity. To your point about Trump's policies, yeah, but at the same time, Black people, people of color, minorities live in a police state in this country. Shot down, pulled out of their cars, shot in their homes, shot in the face for holding a pot of water.
That's a lone wolf.
And
lone wolf.
Shit me. We got a list of people shot down, kids shot down. These policies, I want to know about those policies. I have children that need to live and walk these streets. So those are my issues. I could give a fuck about the economy if I can't walk around without having a gun pulled on me, about being pulled out of my car, or my kid calling me because he's got a busted taillight and now he's scared to get out of his car because there's 6 cop cars behind him. So you can miss me with all that other stuff when I don't know if I'm going to survive.
So Thad, let me ask you with that. No, I want to follow up directly on that.
And then you can ask your question. One more thing.
No. I want on that.
Okay, just hop back to that. Hold on, one thing. The last thing I'm going to say is this: that most people who are running don't have a vision for what this country needs to be. They have no vision. They lean on all of these other specialty people. So when you're asking them to answer these questions, they don't know because they don't have a vision. And I think that is where the problem starts, because you're running people that don't identify with the people that they're supposed to represent, either side. They're just telling you what you want to hear. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so I'm going to reverse that first. They don't have a vision. I think the problem is it's too arching of a vision, because the country is too big and too complicated for any one person to really know understand the policies and the intricacies of everything in this country.
It's very simple. It's not. We all want the same things. You want to have a roof over your head. You want to be able to protect your children. You want to be able to provide for your family.
On a macro level, yeah.
You want to, right, exactly. You want to know that you're going to be able to your children are going to be safe. You want to know that your children at the end of the day are coming home.
Sure.
We all want those things. We're just confused about how to fucking get there.
Okay, but now you're talking about some different stuff, though.
No, I'm not.
Everybody wants listen. Everybody wants a roof over their head. Is it the government's responsibility to provide that roof?
No.
Now the security.
It's the government's responsibility to make sure that if we are in a capitalistic society, right, that the ability to be able to go out and earn that on that playing field is level. Equity. That's what we're talking about.
I don't think that's the government's job.
You don't? The government's job, the government owes this country's whole building and founding to other people.
Let me ask. Let me clarify. Let me ask. Make sure we're actually saying the same thing. But are we talking about equality of opportunity or equity of outcome?
Equality of opportunity.
We're talking about opportunity.
Okay, that I agree with it. So let me ask you this then about the safety. And I agree with you, because I responded to KJ on Facebook. I went and watched that boiling water and the cop and KJ knows. I was like, that guy's going to jail, and rightfully so, because it was ridiculous that the cop did that. I mean, there were so many problems with the cop's reaction before that, even, let alone just the shot. That was just the final act of a barbarian. But where is it the responsibility? Like, I look at it and go, when you're talking about the federal laws and you're talking about how to keep your kids safe, and since I'm white and you're black and we're talking about the black community have a higher risk because my kid gets pulled over, probably not going to have the same fear, whether it's results or not, the same fear. And I can appreciate that. Where is it in the federal or the president that can fix that? Because I look at a lot of that going, if you have cops that are doing this, you can say it's systemic countrywide, but then why is it worse in places like, let's say, Los Angeles versus?
How long did it take them to pass the Asian hate crime bill?
Oh, KJ and I talked about this like last month.
Black people are treated like that, have been treated like that consistently across the board. There is no crime bill for us. You know why? Because it's acceptable. Had this been a white woman in her home, heads would roll immediately. Mentally ill or not, there would be uproar. People would be pissed and somebody would have lost their job immediately. Fuck being arrested, the sheriff, all these other people that this would have been a company-wide overhaul. But that had this, a kid gets shot, he dies, it's outrage, and then it slowly goes away. It's somebody walking in a place that they live, gets shot, and the freaking block captain gets to walk free because of stand your ground. This happens over and over. We have a list of names over and over and over and over. And you want to talk about fatigue? You want to talk about some people that really should be angry? If my child, I'm going to tell you, and I don't care who knows, if my child got shot, you ain't got to worry about whoever shot him. He'll never make it to fucking trial. I promise you. I'll go to trial. Because I'm going to do that for mine.
I am definitely a firm believer of eye for an eye. Just being completely honest. I stand on that principle in the Bible.
So what I'm saying, as far as we talk about federal goes, right? Had there been a change in law that says, and this is what really pisses me off about Trump, that police officers should have no accountability, that okay, you can shoot us down and there's nothing that anybody can do because you're in a high-risk job.
Enriched immunity.
Say that again.
Enriched immunity.
Enriched immunity. That's bullshit. And it ain't even a dog whistle no more. Like, we know when black people hear that, you know what we hear? I can't say all black people, but I know what I hear. Right? I hear it's okay for you to shoot us down in the street because white people ain't dying in their homes like that. White people not being shot in their beds, shot in their home at 2 a.m.
You're starting to see a little bit more, but not on that level. So I want to jump in real quick before we move on because I really want to get to the last one. We can say the last 20. So yeah, we're gonna run over. I hope.
My bad.
Give me my back. We're gonna be about 10 minutes over. So
you sure? I mean, because if we're talking about the 90-minute mark.
Yeah, it's fine. I bought the extended. We can. Yeah, I got it.
I was just gonna say, because what we can do is we can stop at the 89 and just flip it right into.
Yeah,
start it over.
We're good. We are good. So here's how the federal government impedes, right? They govern without govern when it comes to police. I'm not sure if you're familiar, right? So what is her name? Henrietta Hicks, right? So the lady who had the genome where you can keep lax. Thank you. Right. So 1950s, 40s, 50s is right. They used her genes without her permission, right?
It was a cancer that wouldn't die.
Yeah. So what they did is they came out with reform on the federal level, right? And they said, hey, you can't do this anymore. This isn't right. Right. So we've seen the government, right? When DUIs became rampant, right? In the early 30s and 40s, right? The government came out and made a mandate and said, hey, look, we are going to punish you, right? We're going to punish, and not only are we going to punish you, we're going to punish everybody, right? We're going to punish everybody, right? So we've seen the federal government, and the point I'm getting at, the point I'm making is, if a doctor does something that causes a death that they're responsible for, right? They lose their license. They have to carry insurance to cover that, right? If you hit somebody with your vehicle, whether you're drunk or impaired or not, you have to cover insurance, right? And that comes out of your pocket. The difference with the policing force that we don't see anywhere else in the public health sector or the public service sector is, when the police kill somebody, it comes out of your pocket. It comes out of my pocket, right? The city pays those fees. The city pays those fines. The city has to pay. Basically, citizens have to be financially responsible for their own victimhood. And that is where I think we can fix it. If you were to, and I'm not even talking about taking the pensions of the police forces or the unions. I don't even want to mess with their pensions. What I'm saying is, you have to now carry insurance. You make it a national mandate that officers have to carry insurance, right? And when these sorts of incidents happen, their insurance rates get tagged. After a while, you'll start to see improvement. You'll start to see a course correction, right?
Do you think? Well, let me ask you that then, because this is always what I go back to when they talk about more gun control laws or things like that. Okay, what part of an insurance requirement? Let's just use your example here. What part of insurance requirement stops officer? Who was? I don't even know the guy's name. Whatever.
And that's a great question, but that's not.
What stops Officer Barbarian from shooting that woman in the face?
That's not the intent of insurance. Insurance isn't there to stop you from doing it. Insurance is there to punish you and the people responsible, right? So here's what I'm saying.
Punishment for him is going to jail.
You know what? Here's the issue, right? So here's what I'm saying. If that insurance union, if that police union has to have insurance on those officers, right? And that insurance premium that they have to pay keeps going up because of the reckless behavior in that department, they're gonna have a come to Jesus meeting and say, hey, look, dudes, you are cutting into our money by being reckless. You need to have more control, right? So it's not necessarily impacting them. One, it takes the financial burden off of the municipalities and the citizens. So you don't have the cities who are already running in the deficit having to pay these ridiculous fines. And two, it allows the police departments to police their own, right? Because when you start hitting people in pockets, when you start hitting people in their pockets, that's when you get the fastest reform.
What keeps people doing a job that every single person, every single interaction that they have when the other person has done something actively wrong or perceived wrong, what other job, every interaction, do you fear for your life at the beginning of that interaction other than police work?
Exactly.
Now, don't get me wrong. What that one dude did, I mean, holy crap. I mean, dude, come on. She rebukes you in the name of Jesus. Are you actually a devil and now you're upset that she rebuked you in the name of Jesus, so you got to shoot her in the head? Holy crap, dude. It's kind of like gun control when they say the Sandy Hook stuff, right? Well, he went and he took the gun from his parents and he went to the school, and we need stronger gun control. Okay, what gun control would have, outside of banning guns, would have stopped?
It's not, you're comparing. That's not comparable.
No. I'm saying, listen.
No, I'm saying on a professional level, that's not comparable, right? Because you're saying, oh, professional.
No.
If you were going to compare it, that's what I'm saying. If you were going to compare it, it would be like, all right, so if the police union would have their license at stake, right? And their insurance is at stake for malpractice, it will be comparable to the health industry, right? You know, when
so this guy
just because
so
you have to pay insurance
hold on.
does not mean that you're going to not do the thing.
Absolutely,
Doctors, there's a whole slew of doctors that continue to do the thing, even though they have malpractice and all this different.
Absolutely,
they just bounce around. They move
and we are currently in a position where the number of doctors in this country is becoming dangerously low because older doctors are going, the premium, these insurance premiums are way too high. I can't afford them. So why am I OBGYNs? Huge deficit because there are a lot of problems with births and things that OBGYNs deal with. That's a huge problem. So now if you're saying, all right, now, and again, I do think there's better ways to do things, but when you have the union, let's say, and we're just going off of KJ's example of insurance. So now you go in and you say, all right, union, you guys, your premium's going to go up. And if you don't fix yourself, then there's going to be issues. All right. So now the union goes, okay, the premiums are too high. We can't hire anybody. Now we're going to be forced to pay overtime, or we're going to have calls go unchecked. And now the public's pissed off because now we don't respond to the non-emergency stuff. And so now the problems go up, and now there's always these cascading things, and there's these problems go back to, and they're not easy problems. I get it. I look at individuals, right? And I understand you have patterns of behavior. I understand, that when you have the culture of the Los Angeles Police Department from 1960, well, probably 1950 through however long leads to the 1968 race riots and the 1992 riots. Yeah, there's reasons. What's going on in Los Angeles does not necessarily mean that what's going on in Los Angeles is affecting what's going on in Minneapolis. Minneapolis has their own problems. What happened in LA doesn't lead to Officer Chavin on having his knee on George Floyd's neck. What Officer Chavin didn't lead to this guy shooting the poor old woman in the face, right? So, yeah, I think there are problems. Immunity. Now, if you're saying immunity should be no matter what, as a police officer, you cannot be. I'd have to see. First of all, we all know when politicians are on the stump, they say things that are very, very different than what is going to be law, right? And so I take everything that is said on the stump with just massive, like, whole on grain, blocks of salt in a lot of ways. And it's one of those issues that, honestly, to me, we go the wrong way. Instead of saying, I need the police to come, and I know that what the other side of this is already going to be, but I think the police, I don't want to rely on the police. I don't think either of you want to rely on the police either. Dad, what you just said, somebody shoots my son, I'm not worried about him going to trial. I'll stand trial because I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot him in the head too. And if it's a cop that does it, I'm going to be a cop killer. That woman, if her neighbors had come out and they surrounded that cop and beat the shit out of him, I vote not guilty. Put me on that jury. I'm fine with that. Watching that video pissed me off because I'm a former military police. I've got a lot of friends who are cops. It pisses them off too. And KJ, I told KJ this, and so it was a private, conversation on Facebook. But the thing that pissed me off secondarily was that the partner, his first reaction was he drew his gun too. It's like, no, dude, your first reaction should have been,
man,
officer,
put
what
the gun away. Why are you pointing your gun at her?
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
And you that.
Yes. Exactly. What are you, dude? What are you? Put your gun down. What are you doing?
What the hell are you doing? There are a couple of things. The problem that we're talking about is it's a training problem. It's a systemic issue in the police training. It's how the fear of and to, what I wrote down was this: to your points, doctors don't listen to Black patients either. So when you're talking about things that happen, this is why, you know, things like this continue to happen.
Right.
I just posted on my Facebook earlier this week a story about a nurse during the crack epidemic who was getting information about her patients who should have been receiving treatment. And she was criminalizing their addictions and turning them into police as soon as they had their babies. Which led to their children being taking it into the system. And so instead of treatment, they were criminalized. This kind of stuff happens over and over and over and over again to Black people. We are perceived as a constant threat. When a cop sees me in a car, they don't know that I have a PhD. They could care less. They don't know that I'm an entrepreneur. They don't know anything about me. What they know instantly is that I'm Black and I'm a threat. I may be toting, I may be carrying, I may be a drug dealer. I am not given the benefit of a doubt. But if I were white, I am given the benefit of a doubt before they walk up, they touch the back of the car, they walk in, license and registration, because you're a citizen. You're not perceived as that threat off the bat. Doesn't matter anything else. You could be dangerous. As soon as he walks up to the front and he says license and registration, you could blow his head off. But he's not going to be ready for that. He's going to be ready for me, regardless of what I do. So I have to teach my sons different to live in this place to come home.
Two things to what you're saying there.
Mm-hmm.
One is that when somebody who is white creates that toxic situation, that nurse, right? That one nurse affected how many Black families, right? So it could be one person who disproportionately affects a significant number of people, and that's
the history shows that this happens more and more. You talk about syphilis trials, you talk about Henrietta Lacks. We can go down a list of Black people being treated as sub-citizens.
Radiation,
and I'm
exactly.
Oh, sure. And I mean, the GI Bill when you came back from World War II, and I get it. And World War I, World War II, all that.
It's expansive, yeah.
Yeah, there is, and I'm not trying, and I'm not trying to make that seem. What I'm saying is those individual. Yes, there are definitely systemic, and I think when you're talking about, like, again, the GI Bill and some of the problems with the GI Bill, I've got to give a munchkin my T-Rex here. Okay.
Yeah, man.
When you're talking about there's the difference between the systemic issues like the GI Bill and the Tuskegee, those government things, versus the one individual who makes it horrible for a group of people. And that I agree with. And the second one is this, and I have to say this so carefully, or else I'm going to get absolutely killed in the comments. Okay? But statistics are sometimes valid. Okay? Now, if a police officer, and it doesn't matter if that police officer is white or Black, if they walk up, if there's that perception, and maybe the statistics are falsified, maybe it's a lie, but if the perception of that officer is that because I'm walking up on you, Thad, that you are more likely to shoot me than if they walk up on me, is that a training issue? Is it a societal issue? Is it a statistics issue? Is it a combination of all the above? Is it a flat out just racist issue? Because again, I've got friends that are cops that
I've got a brother-in-law that's a cop, right?
Is he more scared?
Some of my friends are cops.
Are they more scared when they roll up on someone who's Black than white?
Absolutely not.
I'm curious.
They are. I'll tell you. You know what Black cops are afraid of? They're afraid that they're going to get
Their
enough
partners?
complaints. They're going to get enough complaints that they're going to be out of a job, because they will pull over people, and people will say, well, my brother is such and such, and I'm going to go and complain. And once a black cop starts to get enough of those, there's a problem. So again, what you're talking about on the other side of that is what you're talking about is a problem that from the base of how it was founded, black people, no matter what your role is, are seen as the threat, inferior to be citizens, no matter what your role is. If I'm black and a cop and in a role of authority, then why are you're Uncle Tom? So they are cast out of the side of black folks because we feel we can't trust them, and on the other side, you're not quite white enough to be over here, right?
It's a messaging issue, yeah.
And so when you're asking, what kind of issue is it? It's a foundational issue. And anytime you build a foundation you build on a faulty foundation, you're going to have problems. We have never addressed these problems, and so they just continue to build into all of our institutions. The reason the nurse was able to do what she did is because she was emboldened by the system. She was able to do that because nobody was going to challenge her and say, aren't you breaking your patient's confidentiality? Aren't they looking for treatment? Shouldn't you be referring them? Nobody was going to challenge her on that. When you see cops that abuse their authority, nobody's going to challenge them on that until they have a shooting where it's caught on tape and the public is made aware, and then good cops suffer along with bad cops.
Okay.
We gotta move forward. We've been on this for 32 minutes.
Hold on. I gotta hit something here.
You guys have been two more things for the last 36 minutes. Go ahead.
But this one.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
First,
first,
KJ, you and I talked about this with the book White Trash,
yes,
where poor white people were above black people. So no matter how poor, they were still better than the black people. So I agree. The systematic mindset of that. Yes. The second thing is this: I personally have experienced racial bias by an African American female who put my career at risk. There was no accountability for her. They took everything she said by her word. My word meant nothing ultimately because, and this was said by several black leaders, well, you're just our white Protestant chaplains, you're a dime a dozen. Now, that does not excuse anything like the cop shooting the woman in her house. But I will say that if you or anybody has a way that we can move forward and fix this, and I think this is more beneficial than anybody in the federal government, is us just talking about this stuff. This is more beneficial than any law that's been passed in the last 20 years. If our audience would actually, if people would actually listen to us and just be willing to engage, would do more. But
I totally agree with you. That is the problem.
Yeah.
They won't have the hard conversations because then you have to do something about it. When you acknowledge that there's a problem, the next thing is, well, how do we fix it? And until when you are out here saying that there's no racism in this country, bullshit.
Oh, I didn't say that. No. There is. Yeah.
Not you.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We have people that get on the stump and say this kind of rhetoric. It's dangerous.
All right, hold on. You ain't gonna be taking no cheap shots at my man Tim Scott. I'm just letting you know I'm be attacking Tim Scott on this show. That is my guy. Timmy is my guy. You gonna leave Timmy alone. All right, now.
Go ahead.
This is gonna be another 30-40 minute conversation, but we gotta get to it. I know, but all right. The complicated legacy of the 44th POTUS, right? The question was asked this week. What has Barack Obama done for black people? And that question was asked in reference to Kamala Harris and the rub, right? So what I'm going to do is play 2 videos. They're about 2.5 minutes each with different views of the legacy of the 44th POTUS. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. And hopefully we can finish this up.
And I'll tell you right now, I am going to put a not my lane, because realistically, if you're talking about the black community of Barack Obama, what they've done for the black community, it's not my place. So I'm going to sit back and listen to it, and you two get the next. You two will be able to have your conversation, and I will sit here and be entertained like everybody else.
The legacy of the 44th president is what we're going to talk about. All right. So first up is Tavis. Don't call me an Obama hater, Smiley. And we'll let him give his viewpoint.
In the era of the first black president, the bottom fell out for black America. Although they had a black president, they were still politically marginalized, they were economically exploited, they were socially manipulated. So how do you juxtapose those two realities years from now? I'm glad I'm not a historian trying to figure that out 20, 40, 50 years down the road. But I tell you this, I think the historians are going to root for Obama ultimately because it's a good American story. You got to say America did the right thing. They elected the brother. You know, so the story, the narrative kind of takes its own shape. But when they get to this part about how you juxtapose those two realities, his success and the bottoming out for black America, that's going to be a much harder story to tell.
Here's what's amazing statistically. The most optimistic people in America are African Americans. Right. And because they're excited, they're still excited about this president. They still defend him, no matter what has happened to them economically.
That attitude changes dramatically as soon as a Republican is elected. Do you think they become less optimistic as soon as a Republican is elected?
So much of America was proud back in 2008 when Barack Obama got elected. It wasn't just black America. It was all of America. Even if you didn't vote for him, millions of Americans were glad to see that this country could make that step. It's fascinating to me that the community is suffering economically, and it is widespread suffering. And yet they still believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today.
That was an opinion, right? So this next opinion is from Dr. Eric Dyson. Not sure if you guys are familiar. Professor, very esteemed brother in the proverbial black community. And we're going to hear his thoughts on the legacy of the 44th POTUS.
Hi, everyone. This is Natasha Alford with thegrio.com. And today I have the pleasure of having Dr. Michael Eric Dyson with us. How are you, Dr. Dyson?
I'm doing fine, Ms. Alford. Nice to be here.
To see you.
Good to see you as well.
Dr. Dyson, as you know, is a Georgetown professor, commentator, acclaimed author, and now author of the new book, The Black Presidency, Barack Obama and the Politics of Race. It's hard to believe that the 8 years are kind of over already. What do you think of this legacy?
Well, I think President Obama will go down as one of the presidents that we've ever had. His accomplishments are pretty remarkable. First year, second year, when you talk about bailing out the banks, when you talk about bailing out the automobile industry, when you talk about giving us health care, job numbers just came out recently, 215,000 jobs added. I mean, when Bush was running stuff, it was pretty dastardly and pretty depressing, and he's been an extraordinary boost to the economy. On the other hand, I think when it comes to issues of race, that will not be the strongest part of his legacy, because I think President Obama has been hesitant to address race. I think he will have a mixed legacy when it comes to addressing the issues of African American people.
Right, and you talk about that in the book, sort of being in between a rock and a hard place, right? You can't, whenever President Obama spoke about race, there was always this firestorm, no matter what he said. But at the same time, Black Americans are Americans too.
We are Americans too. And the thing is, he faced a lot of tough times on other issues as well. It's not just only race that pulled him down. I mean, when he spoke about, issues of gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual people, and queer people.
So that's good. We're gonna cut that out because he goes into all the other stuff after that. So ultimately, you have two opposing views from two well-esteemed members of the proverbial black community with opposing views on the legacy of the 44th president and his benefits to African Americans. I have some thoughts, but Thad as our guest, I will let you go first on your thoughts, and then I'll come in, and then Chappie, feel free to chime in. You know, you are 1/64th black, so you know what I'm saying. As a brotherhood, we got to stick together. You know what I'm saying. So
one drop rule, my boy. Okay. Anyway, I think two things can be true at the same time. I think as a president for a whole country, I did well during Obama's terms. Someone who is a diabetic, I saw and was, during the time where we were forced to carry insurance, I was able to find insurance that helped me to be able to go to the doctor more often, to be able to afford my medication. At a time when I wasn't necessarily doing great financially because of my job situation. But let's not get it twisted. Barack Obama is not ADOS, so he's not a American descendant of slaves at all. Barack Obama married an ADOS individual, and I think that colored a lot of what his perspective was. But Barack Obama is truly an African American in the truest sense of the word. But he is, to me, he's not black. When I use the term black, I'm speaking specifically about ADOS. I'm speaking specifically of African descendants of slaves. That is a unique experience in this country. I think that I'm also hesitant, which it tells why he was hesitant to speak on race. His experience as a black man in this country was colored by the aspect of having a white mother and an African father, which is not the same as being ADOS. That experience is going to be completely different. As far as the community is concerned, yeah, there is very little I can say as far as overarching community that Barack Obama did for the black quote unquote community, other than breaking the glass ceiling of making people feel like this is something that is attainable for black people. Now, I don't feel like there was much else specifically for black people. Again, we did not get a hate crime bill. We did not get anything that we needed to resolve some of the racial inequality in this country. And that's what I was looking for. Those things that never made it to the table. And though people will say, those that defend him will say, Congress stopped a lot of things that he was trying to do, this, that, and the third. Trump didn't have any problem getting into office and writing executive orders left and right. So if you truly wanted to make a difference, you put your balls on the table and you make the executive order.
And you let it rock, especially in your second term when you got nothing else.
When you ain't got nothing to lose.
Chappie, I got a question for you as a fellow baseball fan, right? Mm-hmm. What makes Jackie Robinson special? He wasn't considered the greatest ball player ever. Didn't have exceptional arm strength. Wasn't a particularly, outstanding. He was a good player, but he wasn't outstanding. But Jackie Robinson is revered in the major league community. Wow.
Well, of course, the start is the obvious answer of he was the first African American to cross the race line and be brought in. But what the true reason is because Branch Rickey called Jackie Robinson into his office, and he said, "Jackie, I've been thinking about this for a few years. I would really like to right a wrong that has been going on." Now, Branch Rickey was the GM of the Dodgers. He'd got the Dodgers backing, and he said, "I want to bring somebody up to the major leagues that is African American, that is a black man. But that black man has to know That the first one, he's going to get called every name in the book. He is going to be spat upon. He is going to be cursed at. He's going to just everything you can possibly imagine thrown at him. I need somebody who is going to stand with dignity and grace and take all that abuse. Are you the man to do that? And Jackie said yes. And in one of his very first games, if not his first game, he's out there at second base. He's just getting, again, just yelled at and screamed at. And by that point, Jackie had been around his teammates long enough. And Mr. Pee Wee Reese, who played shortstops for the Dodgers, who at the time was a pretty well-known, he did not like the idea. He did not like the idea. Racist. He was a racist. He did not like the idea of a black man sharing the field with him. But Jackie had been around him long enough that after the first out of the game, I think is what it was, Pee Wee walked over, put his arm around Jackie, said, "Good job," tapped him on the chest. Jackie slapped him on the butt. They went and played ball. And Jackie never had a reaction to any of the fans, any of the things that got thrown at him. And that's why he is revered the way he is. And rightfully so, because I don't think there are many people that could take that level of abuse, no matter who they are. And that's why Jackie was, and I've got very little in terms, I love baseball, and I got very little in terms of pictures and things like that. But my younger brother about 10 years ago asked me, said, "Who's your favorite player?" Just in all, I said, "Jackie." And he sent me a picture for Christmas of Jackie Robinson sliding home and stealing home against Yogi Berra. He might have been out, but he was called safe in the World Series. And so that's, I believe and I wish it was signed, of course, but I believe that is the only piece of photographic paraphernalia that I have. And that's why, because of who Jackie was.
That is a very inspiring story. The 44th president of the United States is Jackie Robinson. The fact that he did it and was able to withstand it, because and to Thad's point, he could not have been an ADOS, because an ADOS is so traumatized. We have an inherent blockage based off of our lifetime of struggle. Barack Hussein Obama was the right person at the right time based off of the climate of the country to withstand that and to do so with such dignity and grace to where the perception of a black president, they can't say he was one and done. See, we finally give him a chance. What did they do? They got in there and they acted up. He couldn't be that guy. He couldn't be the black president because he knew it was bigger than just him. Just like Jackie, he knew it's bigger than me. If I mess this up, this country will never take another black candidate seriously. So even though I can't get everything I want to get past, even though I'm putting my reputation on the line for my own community, I have to walk this middle ground. I have to be that guy for the person to come behind me. So when people ask me, or when people say, "Oh, well, Barack Obama did nothing for the black community. Barack Obama didn't do anything for the black community," it's a bunch of hogwash. Because Barack Obama, for black people, will go down, most black people, not all, will go down as the greatest president to ever get elected, simply because he was the first. He was Jackie Robinson. He didn't stand out and do anything exceptional. He had his good moments. He had some weak points. But when you look back at it, you can look back and you say, it is because of him. Do you think without a Barack Obama that a Kamala Harris would even be taken seriously? Would even be a serious candidate? Like we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Eight candidates have been black. Three have been female in the history of our nation. Only one was a serious candidate, and he ended up winning. And because of him, you take that 0% pollster from 4 years ago, and now she's at the head of that Democratic ticket, right? So that endorsement before the nomination, that endorsement before the convention is impactful. That's like Jackie Robinson slapping slapping Barry Bonds on the back or something, saying, "Hey, this is the kid,
the guy."
Yeah, this is the guy, right? So that's why that's important. That's why the legacy of Obama can never be understated. It's more than what did he get signed. It's more than his legacy. If you take all the color and the impact, societal impact aside, he's just another president in the long line of presidents. We bombed a couple of people. We, ran up the deficit. We got out of a couple of things. He's par for the course. But where he stands out is he was the guy to tell the country it's okay to allow us to ascend to the highest levels of the executive branch. And that's why Barack Obama is important. And that's why he is my favorite. Even though I disagree with him a whole lot, Obama will always be my favorite president. And I only got two presidents. Look, I got two presidents hanging up in my house. Two, right? The first one is John F. Kennedy, right? Because John F. Kennedy is white Jesus. My grandmama always called him white Jesus, and she said, "Boy, you always have Kennedy in your house. He died for our sins." John F. Kennedy. And the second one is Barack Hussein Obama. Because of Barack Hussein Obama, my son, I can now look at my son and tell him with a realistic belief in my heart that, hey, man, you can do this. Before Barack Hussein Obama, I could not tell my son that he could do it because it's never been done before. So
you know what's funny about that?
Scariest moment.
That's it.
When he was being inaugurated, I thought for sure.
Oh yeah, I knew he was taking the bullet. Absolutely. What did Trump say? Stand back and stand by. You talk about a revolution. That would have been the sparking point. Because I mean, you want to talk about you had 30 million African Americans locked and loaded, ready to raise hell.
Yeah,
that's why.
So what's funny, KJ, about you saying that is I had a friend. We were talking about. I don't remember if it was when it was probably when Romney was running, and so it was the first 4 years. And she said we were doing a radio show type show, and somebody said, is there anything good that has come out of the Obama presidency? And she was like, no, nothing. I said, no, hold on. There's absolutely one thing very good that's come out of it. And it's what you just said. I said, because he's African American, because he's black, you just told everyone in this country that you can become the president. Before that, you couldn't.
Yep. And that one singular thing was enough. So that's why when people ask me, well, what did Obama never did anything for black people. I have an issue with it because that's not true. That's like saying, oh, what did Jackie Robinson do for black people? Well, shit, without Jackie, had that experiment gone wrong, who knows when the leagues would have been integrated. You know what I'm saying? And I saved it because I knew you would be able to grasp that concept a lot better. That's why. And he was a Dodger, but we all can't be right. I forgive him for his sins. Anyway, on that note, gentlemen, we are at the 2-hour mark. Final thoughts. I will let our esteemed colleague guest go first. Dr. Jones, thank you so much for spending 2 hours with us. It's been a hell of a ride. Man,
final thoughts. I will agree with the chaplain there. We need to have the difficult, and this is something I say all the time, man. KJ, you can attest to this. We need to have the difficult conversations as a people, because the problem is that we are often quiet and complacent when it comes to our elected officials, and we don't hold their feet to the fire about what we truly want as a people and what we truly need. And so if we're ever going to get this country back on the rails to what we think it should be and what we think it could become, the people have to start speaking to each other. We are more alike than we are different. We want the same things. The problem is that we don't agree on how to get it, and we don't share the same experiences in this country. And until we start having those conversations, we're never going to get on the same page.
Right on, Chappie.
This is a drum that I've been banging for a long time. KJ and I have talked about this, and it's something that I would have said earlier if KJ hadn't cut me off. Is that when you're talking about federal elections and federal politicians, there's not a single one who wants to solve problems. Because if you solve problems, your power goes away, and they want the power. It doesn't matter if it's the most conservative guy up there, whether it's Ted Cruz or Senator Lee, or it's the most liberal Nancy Pelosi or AOC. What it comes down to is if we fix problems, they're not going to need us anymore. And if they don't need us anymore, I'm not important anymore. So vote them all out, every single one of them.
That's it. That's it, man. I got nothing left to say. Same bat time, same bat channel next week. Thank you all for joining. It's your boys, the Pogues.
Gee, Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world. Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr. Lance
Try to
O'Neill.
take over the world.